Over the past few months, I've been growing bromeliads hanging off the bars in my greenhouse. Now, high up here, they've had the rising heat through winter and as much of the winter sun as they can get, and the majority have survived. There have, of course, been some casualties. And I think rather than it being cold that got to them, a certain gardener may have forgotten to water up high when he was in here in winter, because I'm so careful about keeping the greenhouse as dry as possible through winter, which is generally what most of these tropical plants need when you're kind of maintaining them at lower temperatures. But the majority of my bromeliads survived, and I've moved most of them outside now. Now is the perfect time of year. The nighttime temperatures are close to 10 degrees Celsius. So it's time to start tying them into the trees, and I've got a new bromeliad project this year. Let me go and show you. So this is where I usually tie my bromeliads in, into the branches of the bigger trees in the garden, which is how they'd naturally grow as epiphytes in the wild. A seed would land in a little kind of area like this, and it would germinate, the bromeliad would grow roots, and then they catch leaf debris and rainwater in the central rosette and survive there. Now, there have been colourful forms cultivated, especially of Nursery, and they look great in a summer garden in the UK. It's so unexpected when you're walking around to see bromeliads tied into the trees. Now, I have done a video showing you how I wrapped the roots in moss and then used a bit of metal wire to hook them over branches, kind of tuck it out the way a little bit, and then it looks really natural. The rainwater will land in here, the bromeliad will colour up in the sunlight, and it just looks super tropical. Now, I'm still going to do some like this because I love the look, especially on this narrow border. Using bromeliads on taller plants adds vertical interest in limited space. But I'm going to take that vertical interest one step further. Let me show you what I mean. So this post is left over from when we had decking here. This was an upright post that the kind of bars were screwed into, but it was concreted into the ground and it's still in quite good condition. So rather than going through all the hassle of digging it out, I thought I'll leave it and I'll find a purpose for it later on. Now, somewhat wishfully thinking, I left the hooks in it for the hammock so that I'd have space to swing. But with the nursery now in full swing, there's hardly any space at all. But I thought I could use this as a living post. I could tie in epiphytic plants, that's plants that grow on larger host trees or host objects, tie them in all the way up this post and create a really unusual kind of living totem pole. Now, these Nursery are plants that I've grown in the Grow Paradise garden outdoors in the summer for a number of years now, and they're great. They flush in all sorts of colours. There's so many different ones available. You can see I've tied one here onto this slightly unphotogenic solar panel, and they thrive. They produce offsets. They grow really, really happily here, even with the salty kind of spray from the coastal conditions. So, somewhat bodge job there, but I could tie that on quickly and you can see the effect. Stay. There you go, something like that. But these are tender, so they're going to have to come in winter. Now, you may have seen a recent video where we went to visit Michael Randall at Misfit Plants, a nursery near to where I grow. And he ties his Nursery using fishing line onto bits of wood like this, or he was using half a coconut shell.
So, and it would just grow out. Then naturally, this is a cultivar, but its wild ancestor or species, it would either find a neighbouring branch or just a neighbouring plant and root on.
Yep.
But you can see how
it's almost scrambling its way through the canopy.
But then each bromeliad has its own way of doing things. Same with orchids. It just depends on its niche, its habits.
What have you got that growing in? Is it a half coconut shell?
Yeah, it's just a half coconut shell. Got it from the supermarket.
With some
ate the inside.
sphagnum moss?
Yeah. But then they don't need the sphagnum moss, really. You can just give them the coconut shell.
That's a really nice way of doing it. I might have to give that a go. And if I can get mine to grow that way, I could then hook them onto this post and then take them off in winter and then hang that whole structure inside of the greenhouse like I showed you earlier. Then it would be much better. The plants could root in and like have instant effect when the weather is right come spring and summer. But there's another option. There are a small handful of epiphytic bromeliads that are hardy through mild parts of the UK. And one of those is this. This is Bilbergia nutans. The common name's queen tears, and it's sold as a houseplant very, very often. Now, Bilbergia, unlike the smaller Neo-Regelia, do get quite a bit bigger and benefit from having a pot to root into. You can see that this one's produced a lot of offsets already, and that pot is full of roots. Now, I'm toying with the idea of getting coir pots or felt pots and nailing them in to the side here, because these bromeliads should be able to stay out all winter long to create that tropical rainforest look. This one did have a flower spike. They get great big pink flower spikes that look really, really colourful, really unusual. It's either going to be coir pots or I'm going to create felt pockets, maybe try my hand at a sewing machine so that I can create pockets that are big enough, because a lot of the ones you see for sale online are tiny and the plants dry out very quickly. But again, that's a great thing. As I'm talking, I've just seen there's another flower spike on its way with this one, so we're going to be able to see the flowers soon. These plants are very drought tolerant because they hold rainwater in the rosettes. You can see it always pours out no matter what time of year it is. I think that's going to look really, really good. And there are a couple of other hardy bromeliads you can try. There's Achmea recurvata. I've not had any of those, but I'd like to get a couple to try, and they flush in orange and pink on the foliage. And then obviously air plants. This one is Tillandsia bergii hybrid, and this one has been out in sub-zero temperatures and it's survived absolutely fine here. Now, one other that you might not realise is a bromeliad is Spanish moss, Tillandsia usinoides, and these are in full flower. Now, these have been out in sub-zero temperatures in the Grow Paradise garden, and they seem to survive, but that's under the canopy of an evergreen host tree. I think hanging them here could be a bit more risky, but I'll divide a clump so that I've got some to experiment with. Now, if you've got any suggestions on how I can successfully kind of connect my bromeliads to this post without drilling too much into the post, because that could cause it to rot faster than it would otherwise. Whether that's hardy bromeliad or tender, I'd love to hear about it. And if you've already done a project like this, I'd love to see pictures. Now, you can share pictures with me over on our growers forum at growparadise.social. I'll create a forum feed there and just reply to the feed with your pictures, because I love seeing people's projects because it helps inspire me. It's exactly the same reason I do this, to help inspire others. I love receiving the same thing. The internet is great for this, and it doesn't matter if you're in the UK or in some tropical climate where you're growing bromeliads. I'd love to see your projects. Thank you so much for watching. I'll post an update video when I start making progress on this. And if you're in the UK, feel free to visit our plant and seed shop, because we ship plants just like this nationwide. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in the next one.